Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always, still coming in hot from Mexico, and I'm super pumped to have today's guest on the show coming in hot from New York City, the best city in and on the planet. Not even up for discussion, folks. New York is the absolute GOAT. Part of me wishes I was there, but story for another day. Super pumped to have Rob Solomon on the show today, the co-founder at DIMO, an open connected vehicle platform. Guys, I can't wait to get into this. We are going to get buzzing on everything DePIN related and how these guys are truly connecting the future of mobility. Super pumped. Got to finish the bio though. Rob's background is in finance, investing, and organizational design. Most recently, he worked at Consensys. Yes, the Consensys we all know, the largest Ethereum-focused development company. And he focused on finance, internal economics, and decentralizing the organization. Prior to that, he was at Vroom, a pioneer in the online used car marketplace sector. He started his career at the Downtown Project in Las Vegas, a spinoff of Zappos.com, working on corporate finance investments and implementing Holacracy. Rob, super pumped to have you on. How you doing, my friend? Pumped to have you.
Good. Yeah, you got it all there. RIP Vroom's e-commerce business. They shut it down, I think 2 days ago. Not selling used cars online anymore.
2 days ago, they shut it down.
Yeah. End of an era for them. Yeah.
How crazy was the used car boom when COVID hit, when used cars were going for like a couple grand less than
that was funny.
Whips?
Well, it's the supply chain. You kind of see what happens with housing, with cars, and anything like that when you have populations growing, people spending, and supply chains breaking down.
So have you always been obviously you guys are, you're working in the whip space right now in the car biz, and you have a history in the car biz. You a big car guy?
I like cars. Someday I want to have a project car, like you buy like one of those 91 Ford Bronco, whatever, Toyota 4Runner, and like paint it, fix it up, make it nice. I would love to do that someday, but I've a little bit more of a point A to point B guy. And Vroom was just a good opportunity to join at a really interesting time at a startup in a great position. I followed somebody over from Zappos, from Vegas to New York to work there. And I wasn't sure I would actually use the automotive experience again, but it's super useful at DIMO. So everything makes sense when you look, hindsight.
Yeah.
When you look back, all the dots connect pretty well. And Vroom plus Consensys equals DIMO is a pretty good path there.
Yeah. Nice little synergy. What was it like working at the Downtown Project in Vegas, which was a spinoff of Zappos? I don't know anyone. Yeah, I guess you're the first lad I've ever met who's worked at Zappos, but I've heard some crazy corporate culture stories working at Zappos. You have any good stories to tell us?
Honestly, yeah. And it was the first job out of college. We kind of got spoiled. We heard all about the culture there. It seemed fine, but then you kind of go on. It's not that Vroom and Consensys had bad culture, but you kind of realize later on how special that place kind of, was, or maybe still is. I'm not as plugged in there anymore, but Tony Hsieh is the CEO of Zappos. He passed away a few years ago, but genuinely really great guy. I got to know him pretty well while I was there. Really great intentions, super smart guy. And so what he did is he wanted to move Zappos from the suburbs to downtown Vegas. Downtown Vegas didn't have much of a residential, or even you really had no reason to go down there unless you were going to the old strip. And he invested $500 million of his own money to just try to, and it wasn't just apartments and grocery stores. It was cool cultural events and schools and health clinics and all kinds of stuff. So I was working on that. And at the same time, he implemented Holacracy at the Downtown Project and Zappos, and I was part of the team working on that. It's the idea of decentralized organizations and managerless organizations and all that kind of stuff. And we can talk about that management structure if you'd like, but I think there's some real issues with Holacracy specifically, but decentralized organizations as a concept is really cool. And I think it can work, just maybe not exactly the way we were trying to do it. And that's why when I was at Vroom and I came across the Ethereum.org website and I was reading about DAOs and identity and whatever, I thought, okay, I like Vroom, but I want to spend the rest of my life working on this stuff, because this is, I can see the benefit to building systems on blockchains. The smart contract thing is too cool. There's again, DAOs are still a little bit premature or immature, I guess, in the way that they're operating. But long term, there's a lot here, and so I was going to meetups, met a bunch of folks from Consensys, and worked there for 4 years.
I mean, that's everyone. It's crazy. Like the Consensys. I feel like the Consensys blanket of founders is almost similar to like the PayPal mafia, where it's like so many incredible crypto Web3 blockchain companies have founders that did a little stint at Consensys.
Yeah, I mean, if you were in the space at the time, it was like one of the best places to go. It's a great environment. Like there was a lot of resources and smart people there. And yeah, also just like a numbers game, like a lot of people worked at Consensys. When I was interviewing, there was like 250 people there. When I actually joined, there was like 400. A couple of months later, there was like 1,500. It was like pretty quickly. And yeah, and a lot of respect for like Tony, Shay from Zappos, Joe has a lot in common. Brilliant guy, really nice guy. I'm still really supportive of everything they do over there. And actually, they invested in our last round too. So happy to be back in their ecosystem a little bit.
I love that. I want to keep buzzing on DAOs for a bit here, Rob. This is something that, again, I don't know where I stand in this regard because I see the use case, I see the utility, I see how powerful it can one day become. But just to sort of fortify your point a couple of minutes ago, it's like we still haven't seen a whole lot of present day magic when it comes to DAOs. Very choppy. Perhaps the tech isn't good enough.
Yep.
Perhaps the organizational structure isn't good enough. The communication flows, the sync, everything, the workflows. You're way more in tune to this than I am. Like, what can we do to actually make DAOs a thing? And I hate to be the timeline guy, but how sort of far out are we from actually seeing DAOs really work magic in organizations as a whole?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a technological limitation. I do kind of think it's a bit of a systems design thing. I have a very specific take on this, which is, so with Holacracy, the idea is no managers, right? Yep. For any system to work, like whether it's a corporate system, a village, a country, whatever, like you need to be able to amplify good ideas, suppress bad ideas. I don't mean like censor them, like arrest people. I mean like if you open up a bad restaurant, it will lose money and it will go out of business naturally. Like you suppress bad things, you amplify good things, you create incentives to do good things. There's positive feedback, the right feedback loops. Resources are allocated appropriately, and the things that the system wants to produce like should have some incentive and way to like emerge, right? And at a normal corporation, that is done where, at the top level, direction is set, resources are allocated from the kind of executive level down to teams, like a big budget goes to the marketing team and a smaller budget goes to the ads team and a smaller budget goes to the Instagram ads, So, and everybody's kind of responsible for metrics flowing back up. And that's the way you do it at a corporation. And the limitation that we're kind of sensing into with Zappos and Tony was sensing into is like, that works great. You can run a village with 15 people and a chief who goes like, you guys get food, you guys get shelter, you guys get clothes. And I'll make sure everybody is pulling their weight and, everything will be fine. You can run an economy like that at that scale. You can run a company like that, up to 1,000 people. The issue is like, you can't run a country like that, right? You can't have like the president appoint the head of agriculture, appoint the head of, this, that, Bingo. And then you go all the way down. And then you have like that person managing the people making bread. And then the president makes sure everyone's sharing. Like it doesn't scale. So what decentralized orgs attempt to do is push decision-making to the people doing the actual work and kind of decentralize the org a bit. The issue is though, if you don't also have these feedback loops on resource allocation and you don't have a way for kind of like the incentives to exist for people to do the right things, then you just end up with like, disaster of a program. So I think about DAOs and what could make them more effective. I draw a lot of inspiration from free markets. So, and I was trying to do this at Consensys a little bit, and then there was some restructuring, and then I left, so we didn't get a chance to kind of fully play this out. But part of what I was trying to do there, and part of what I was still consulting, after the fact with Zappos on, was this idea of creating internal markets at a company. So if you have a shared service like marketing, for example, that's like at Consensys was helping 20 different spokes, different startups within Consensys. The idea would be that they would all get funded as startups, and they would pay the internal marketing team, in some type of like internal, Consensys dollar. and that would count, towards their budget. And that's also how you hold the marketing team accountable. Like they are providing services to other kind of groups within this ecosystem, and it makes the, DAO in that case more of like an economy than a
Interesting
big blob. So that's kind of the direction I was trying to take it in. That's one way to do it. I worry about any type of organization that doesn't have, strict feedback loops and intelligent ways of allocating resources and aligning incentives. So it doesn't have to be that way, but there needs to be something for that, or else it won't work.
Rob, we got to jump right into DIMO here, the bread and butter of the show. 300 episodes in here, more than 300 episodes. Rarely do we get real world use cases. So when this came across the desk, for lack of better terms, this tickled my fancy. It's got me going. I'm not a huge car guy myself. Cool. Obviously, I have a whip, not here in Mexico. But when I first learned about DIMO, I was like, this is so friggin' cool. And the use case is so massive. This could truly be a game changer. I'm not even going to try to explain it because you can do a much better job than me. I got to throw the ball over to your court. Let's start with sort of the just high level. Give us the elevator pitch, the TLDR on DIMO, and then we'll get into all the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, it's a connected vehicle platform that uses blockchain. And one of the coolest things about this, and I think why people should be really excited about it, is blockchain happens to be what makes it possible. It's not blockchain for blockchain's sake. Like we're making cars smarter. We're building a platform for anybody to build really sophisticated, interesting things for your car. You might have like a smart doorbell, a smart home speaker, you have a smartphone, but your car is still like a landline, more or less in terms of its technological sophistication. Maybe you have a car that lets you download an app that lets you like unlock it remotely, but like, that's Tesla's better. Tesla, I would say, like if a normal car is a landline, and a newer Ford is like a flip phone, Tesla's like a BlackBerry, but we're building the iPhone here, right? So we're going to make it possible for your insurance company, your bank, for social applications, whatever, to build applications for your car. That means no more going to the DMV. That means selling your car in an OpenSea-style NFT marketplace. It means you can share your car with somebody. It means someone could build smart insurance where you pay per mile. You could join an online digital, club for Porsche owners, whatever. Whatever applications people want to build for drivers. We've got 35,000 cars connected today. We'll have millions and millions not too distant future. And if you want to build an app for those cars, doesn't matter what automaker they are, any car 2008 and up, you can quickly build an app on top of the DIMO platform and deploy it. So yeah, like in a big way, you kind of see like, in some countries they skipped from building landlines directly to mobile phones, right? Or smartphones. And like they, kind of like skip that generation of technology. Automotive never even really upgraded itself to Web 2. And I think a lot of that's because like the industry is so fragmented. Like, the biggest automakers have like in the teens % of the cars on the road. Like Toyota's like 14% of cars on the road. Most of them are single digit. Tesla's like 2-3%.
It's wild.
And so hyper fragmented across the automakers. And then even crazier is like, there's no vertical integration either. There's like different dealerships. It's like, Ralph's Chevy of Western New York. It's a bunch of different mechanics, a bunch of different banks, a bunch of different insurance companies. Industry is so fragmented. They've never been able to like agree on digital identity for vehicles. It's still just like the VIN. It's still like faxing documents. It's still going in person to places. You go buy a used car. There's a used car salesman like calling up banks, negotiating prices. You get insurance once. You probably never try to get new insurance again for 6 years until you get your next car, right? And why can't you like get new insurance policies in real time, get new loans in real time? Why can't you sell your car with all of its, verified vehicle history? Why can't you share that with whoever you want? So that's what we're building. And the reason, as I mentioned, like blockchain is important for that, not so we can justify, hey, we're a blockchain company, pay attention to us and fund us, VCs. It's because if you want all these different participants, Toyota, SunTrust Bank, Geico, whoever, to all trust this platform and want to build on it, it has to be trustless. It has to be neutral. It has to be an actual protocol and not just like an API service offered by a traditional Web 2 company that could just like cut your access off at any point. So that's why we're building it that way. We actually started with a problem and and found blockchain as the answer. Whereas I think a lot of, some projects start with like, what can we do in blockchain? And let's just apply it to something. And we started very much with a goal in mind first and identify the blockchain was the right way to do it. So at a high level, that's what we're building. As I mentioned, 35,000 cars connected. Anybody with a car 2008 and up can connect today. If you have a car that has a subscription already, like if you have the Ford Pass app or the Tesla app, you can probably log in, depending on your region, depending on which subscription it is, to our app and connect for free. That will mint an NFT of your car. If not, we sell a device. We sell two devices. This is the bigger, more expensive one. There's a smaller one that runs on the Helium network, the LoRaWAN Helium network. That's $100. They're both sold out now, but coming back in stock soon. You can pre-order them and connect any car 2008 and up that way.
That one, that was incredible too. I have 6 gajillion questions, so I'm gonna have to choose wisely here because we only have a certain amount of time. Let's start with the little device. What exactly is that device? What does it do? Where do you plug it in? And just as a follow-up to that, like how do all the cars talk to themselves? How do they talk to each other? How do you guys pull data from the cars to, enrich the data set and give the feedback that everyone's looking for?
And I can only go so deep on this as the non-technical blockchain founder. I should say the other founders, our CEO comes from Waymo and Transdev. Our CTO worked at Ford, Mitsubishi, Volkswagen, GM, connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. So really great, fit for the type of thing that we're doing. Our COO comes from Chainalysis. So, and they could speak much more eloquently to how this works, but think of this as like, it's almost like a hardware wallet, like a Trezor or Ledger with a Raspberry Pi in it and secure elements. So it has a wallet. And this plugs into the OBD port in your vehicle. Every car has one. We're actually helped massively by federal right to repair law and standardization in the space. Cars are required to have this OBD port. And
interesting.
And signals for the vehicle kind of run over this CAN bus. And this just plugs in and draws from that. If you go to get your car, you go to like the dealership and they want to see what your engine codes are, what's going on with your vehicle, like they plug into the same port, they plug in the device. This effectively is the same type of thing. And it's passively listening while your car is driving to things like fuel, location, engine speed, like RPMs and stuff like that, the load on your engine. Can even tell like the ambient temperature outside your vehicle, all kinds of stuff. It's we're limited mainly by our ability to decipher what's coming off the CAN bus because we can actually get like 170 different data points. And right now we're focused on like VIN, odometer, fuel, and speed. And this has a GPS and accelerometer on it for acceleration and location. So that's the device. That bigger one is a LTE device. The other one sends data over Helium's network, so it compresses the data down quite a bit and sends it in a very small payload on the Helium IoT network. But the connectivity is incredibly cheap for that other one. And users who connect can access their data in the DIMO mobile app, and they can share it, and they earn some DIMO tokens every week just for staying connected.
It's so cool. I want to take a step back here. How did you mentioned you and the team started this with a problem. Was there a specific issue as a whole that, seems like there's a multitude of problems that you guys are providing solutions for? Was there one specific one? What was that like aha moment when you guys came together and you're like, man, this is such a no-brainer?
There's a bit of that
industry and mobility network hasn't, or economy rather, hasn't, had a revolution, hasn't leveled up in so long. Like what was that aha moment that made you guys make this?
So the other 3 co-founders were already together. It really started with our CEO and CTO linked up first. And they were doing a bunch of different projects. One thing they were trying to do, and actually I still think is one of the coolest, the first pivot of DIMO was you would 3D map a parking garage. You would mount sensors everywhere and then communicate with self-driving vehicles where to go and how to navigate a parking garage. So you could just have a self-valet parking garage. You get out at the front, your car parks itself in the garage. You utilize space better and the car comes back out. And one of the biggest challenges with that is like, okay, well, maybe you could build that for like just Teslas or just, but how do you make this across? How does the Ford talk to the Chevy inside the parking garage?
Yeah.
Like ask the Ford to pull out so the Chevy can go and then the Ford pulls back. Like, how do you build all that? So that was the first one where it's like, that's a bit of a challenge. There's not a lot of standardization. There's a problem here. But that idea was killed because of COVID, and nobody was driving anywhere. Parking garages did not care about this type of stuff. There were some like pilots brewing, but then that kind of killed that. Then later on, there was another project where Andy and Yev, and I think Alex had joined them at this point, were trying to acquire electric vehicle battery data for a client, and they couldn't get it. And they actually sourced a bunch of these devices, and we're just going to pay people cash to plug them in and subscribe to the battery data for the car and just see how they're performing in the real world. And it's like, why limit it to just that? Like, why have everybody who wants to answer one question has to go and install these things in a bunch of different cars? Why not just make a universal platform for it? They were mining helium at the same time, and kind of like, what if we took this model over here and this model over here? And so they called me up. Andy and I worked together in Las Vegas. Him, our COO, and I had all done Venture for America. So Andrew Yang's program before he ran for president was placing people straight out of college into startups all over the country. So the three of us knew each other from that. So they brought me in, and I thought, I had the chance to go be the founder of a couple. When you're at Consensys, things always come up, and I could have gone and tried to start something else with other folks, and whatever. But this was the first one where I was like, man, I really couldn't see how this could be solved without blockchain. What a cool use case. This is something that I would just be excited to see exist. I want to go work on it. And I was kind of drawn to it versus like other projects where it's like, do you really need a token for that? Is this really is that really a blockchain thing? Is it going to move the needle forward even if you succeed? So it was an obvious answer for me. And then I joined, and that was kind of the genesis of it.
And the rest is history. That's so cool. Rob, we got to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, Prime XBT. And when we get back, we're going to keep buzzing on DIMO, and because we barely scratched the surface, and we got to talk about DePIN, one of the trendiest topics in all of the crypto sphere at the moment. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends of cryptonews.com and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders, always demanding and giving you highly reliable market data and performance. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can always design and customize your layouts and widgets. The promo code is CryptoNews50. That is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, CryptoNews50, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Now back to the show with Rob. Rob, we got to jump into DePIN right now. DePIN is sort of the underlying tech narrative acronym that you and the team are using to make this happen, to allow the vehicles to speak and pull data, to enrich the app, the ecosystem, just make everything happen. I'd love if you could give just a quick primer of DePIN, and then we'll talk about how you guys are using that over at DIMO.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the name is appropriate for what it is, decentralized physical infrastructure network. So the key bit of that being, physical. Now, where do you draw the line on that? I don't know. I guess Bitcoin is a physical infrastructure network. It has miners all over the world, so it's like, where exactly do you draw the line? I think it's expanded a little bit over time. I think initially there was DY, which was like helium and wireless networks, building out, wireless connectivity. People would install sensors all over hotspots all over the world, and that would allow people to create wireless networks. Again, that's what we were inspired by. But we're not building a wireless network. We're building like a vehicle network. You have all these real world cars, and you see other projects. HiveMapper doing something. Yeah, exactly. You see HiveMapper doing something similar.
The P.
There's a couple in this category of sensor networks where we fit in, HiveMapper fits in. Maybe you'd put like Teleport in there as well, which is like maybe one level up of like they're building like a decentralized Web3 Uber kind of thing. People are doing this with drones and other kinds of things, 3D printers. There's decentralized like compute networks. And so that was actually one of like the earlier, it's like storage, Filecoin, render, where you're kind of borrowing compute resources from machines all over the world. That seems to have kind of found its way into the DePIN circle. And of course, DY. And I think that those are kind of like the main pillars. I'm sure there's, people will include more than just that in the little, mind maps of DePIN that you'll see, circulated. But I think that's the defining characteristic. Physical infrastructure is deployed incentivized by tokens, to build out a more peer-to-peer style network.
What's the importance, and again, this is more for the listeners here, because I get asked this when rarely family, more friends or someone in my network says, hey, been on Twitter recently, see DePIN popping off. Can you explain it to me? And that's one of the things that I always tell them. The peer-to-peer aspect is massive, because this isn't like, for example, you guys, where you could pick car company X, Y, or Z, where you go to that company and use their infrastructure, use their ecosystem without the people, without the peers giving to the peers and talking to the peers and interacting with the peers. This whole thing doesn't work. It's the same with any other companies similar to HiveMapper, who obviously wants to do something talking to each other as well. What's the importance of the whole peer-to-peer aspect of this as a whole? Like, I'd love if you could explain how without the people talking to the people, this whole thing can't work.
I don't know. Was it like Naval or Balaji, or I forget who kind of made this like tweet thread that has been reposted a lot. But this whole like the biggest taxi company has no taxis, like Uber. Like the biggest hotel company, Airbnb, has no hotel rooms, like, right? Yeah. And about leverage and all that kind of stuff. I think this is just like the next iteration of that. It's like a more fair version of that. Like the biggest vehicle network has no vehicles, right? Like with where DIMO is going. The biggest wireless network, Helium, in their future, owns no cell towers. That kind of thing. I love that model, and I think we have the opportunity to build better and more fair networks that way. With blockchain, because ultimately with Uber, for example, like if you're one of the early drivers, if you're an early power user, you referred 500 people, doesn't like, okay, you got a credit, you made maybe a little bit more money in the early days, but like you don't own any bit of it now. You don't have any say in where it goes. And, an executive team has built a moat, and they can just like decide, hey, we're going to cut driver rates in half tomorrow, and you're going to deal with it because you have no other option, right? And we are the only show in town. Whereas when you build a more blockchain-based network, I mean, there's forkability, sure. There's governance through the token and all that. But really, with what we're building at DIMO, it's like our users, our hardware manufacturers, like the people who participate, are the owners of this network, and they're being. It's a step beyond just giving like a ride credit, like that Uber did when you refer people. So I think that makes it a lot more compelling, and the protocol nature of it, the kind of blockchain nature of it, the forkability aspect of it makes it a little bit more neutral as well. So that's where I think this is a level up for that business model.
I love that. I know we can't divulge too much into this, just SEC and everything FINRA and regulatory related, but I'd love if you could talk about how participants of the ecosystem get DIMO tokens, and how they plug in the DIMO machine, the car gives the data, and in return they get tokens. I'd love if you could sort of talk about how that economy works. Yeah,
right now there's a baseline reward, and it's called baseline because like if you connect and you drive that week, you receive data from your car that week, it stays, it's a verified connection, then you earn your share of, right now it's a little bit under 1 million. It goes down by 15% every year. So we just had our first decrease in December, and next December it'll go down 15% again. But that's split kind of across all participants, and the percentage of that you get depends on how many people are connected. It depends on how you connected. Like somebody who's had one of these things connected for 50 weeks is going to earn more than somebody who just connected their car with software last week,
right?
Proportionally. So that's the main way people earn today. You can also earn, there's a marketplace in our mobile app, and when you book service, when you buy new tires, that kind of stuff, you get some reward back in DIMO tokens. We're really trying to kind of make the token like an airline reward point for your car. People are used to like getting reward points from Delta that you can use to book flights and things like that, or Amex you can use to buy hotels, whatever. So we want people to be able to think of the token as something like that for themselves. In the future, there's all kinds of ideas being kicked around by the community. Developers are building different things. Someone just deployed a proof of concept of like a DIMO credit where you can burn DIMO tokens to mint a stable credit that could be used to be the unit of account to pay for data. In the future, when people build applications on top of DIMO, they will be spending something, probably not actually needing to hold the token because we don't want like Toyota or others to have to like hold cryptocurrency. But when they acquire data, it will result in some tokens going back to the protocol, some going back to the user, some going back to the people storing the data for them. And so there's real utility for it, pretty much, like other blockchain projects, like ETH with its gas fees and so on. So, and EIP 1559, their burn thing. So, you can expect similar types of primitives to emerge with DIMO that kind of expand what the token can be used for. And already it can be used for quite a bit today.
I love that. We got to talk about ETH. You're a big ETH guy, worked at Consensys. You had a great tweet not too long ago on the reports of Ethereum's death being greatly over-exaggerated. You and I are in the same camp here. This is just classic Web3, classic crypto.
Yeah.
When the price doesn't go up like the others, everyone shits on the coin. Everyone's shitting on ETH right now. My only thing about ETH, still gas fees, no bueno, way too high. It still kills you when the network's congested. You're hooped, especially when you were onboarding someone from the land of Web2 and they come on and they go, wait, so I have USDT in my wallet. I want to send it to someone else, but I can't send it because I don't have ETH. A couple little nuances here and there that definitely make it friction city population-ness. But I'd love if you could sort of talk about that report from Polygon and why you tweeted that out.
The other side of that, you might assume that anybody saying that the reports of ETH's death are exaggerated would mean that they therefore think Solana is useless, like is being the main other smart contract chain people are talking about. I like Solana still. I think they're both interesting. I would say I probably do have an EVM bias, which for reasons I can get into. I like to think it's about objective, facts of it, but I have a history with Consensys and having built on it. So maybe I do have more of a just, irrational bias towards it. But I think some of the stuff that Solana is doing is really cool. And I'm definitely more of a DIMO maxi than anything. Like I care about DIMO's success. And if DIMO's success is improved by moving to Solana, then I would support that. Here are there's a couple different things I think any developer or people need to consider. There's obviously a cost and security. We don't need to really get that far into that right now.
Everyone gets that.
The cost discussion is a little bit obscured. Like Solana is subsidizing transactions more than Ethereum. Ethereum is deflating right now. Solana is inflating. I don't think that inflation is crazy, but it's worth pointing out that like there is somebody else helping to pay for each transaction on Solana, but it's very fast. But there's security. But is security good enough? I'm not really qualified to weigh on that. I think it's all kind of fine. The other really interesting thing, so being at Consensys for 4 years, I kind of got to see a bunch of different chapters. And when I was joining, it was like the ICO boom. It was a bunch of people thinking crypto was ready for mainstream. It was pre-crypto kitties. Like we didn't even know that the blockchain would just break itself when it got popular. So we saw a lot of like direct-to-consumer stuff trying to get built, and they were building it like without hard hat, without a mature Infura and Alchemy, without it. Like it was so hard, and wallets were way worse. And to build a cool product that people like, it's not good enough to just deploy some cool smart contracts and a good UI. You want to have robust infrastructure around, and also too, like it's easier if you don't have to develop those smart contracts. If you can just pull some Open Zeppelin contracts off the shelf, they've been audited. They've been battle tested in other applications. I'm just going to kind of reuse these standard contracts, these standard things. Solana just, I think today, published like a bunch of extensions, that are like, they call them extensions, but really it's something like, vetted, like official, contracts that you can use that just make it easier to deploy certain types of, tokens, whatever. All that stuff is super helpful. And not just like the, back end stuff, but even the front end stuff. Like we don't want to build a governance voting platform. We want you to be able to go to Snapshot and log in there and vote there. And the reason we picked Polygon was whenever you go to any of these websites, and especially 2 years ago when we chose Polygon, and you click in the top right corner for where it says Ethereum, and there's a drop down, Polygon was always like the next one. Now it's like, Optimism, 100%. Base, Arbitrum, but it's like still, those are the ones that are guaranteed to be there. Maybe you get Avalanche, but maybe not. Yeah. And then if you're on Avalanche, you have to go find a different solution. But like that was it's like with Polygon, it's like all these applications will just work. Oh, there's a cool, real world asset lending protocol being built by someone else that could be used to take out car loans that we can go talk to. Guess what? They're deployed on Polygon. It makes it a lot easier. So that was a big
stick to the core. Yes,
motivation
stick to
behind
the core,
the decision
and if you need to take from others, no,
right.
Good point.
And but I will say, since then, Solana, like the amount of DePIN projects moving onto Solana has been impressive. The kind of staying power of Solana has been impressive. So I wouldn't write them off, by any means. And they continue to make progress. They're I think doing a lot of things very well. The part of what I was really starting to get confused about, and still have some questions about, is like the future of a kind of modular L2, L3, L a million blockchain ecosystem, as opposed to like a more monolithic one. And I think Solana does some interesting things. They're multi-threaded. They have this like CPI thing to make sure that, you're not executing the same smart contract on different threads, which kind of lets them preserve characteristics of a monolithic chain without having the UX downside of having to bridge between, different L2s. And that really bummed me out about, kind of where Ethereum was going. Is like, I want you to be able to take your car on DIMO and attach other things to the vehicle issued by some other protocol and take out a loan against it and bundle and take your, your home deed, which is on like Base or Optimism or whatever, package the two together, take out a loan against both, repackage that instrument into like another derivative, this whole money Legos, and expands beyond money Legos. Like it's just, the composability Lego thing. You can build such solid, unstoppable, like perfect applications on blockchain, because like unlike the real world, where if you keep stringing these things together and one goes down, it all kind of falls apart. Like you can build these blockchain applications in such a way that as long as the blockchain's running and they all work, like all these recombinations of DeFi stuff, as long as the blockchain's running, those smart contracts will work. And I guess you have to worry about smart contract exploits or whatever, but they'll be there. The team can disappear off the face of the earth, and that contract will continue to exist. So I love that aspect of blockchains. It seems like we're kind of getting away from it a little bit. I'm really excited about what Polygon's doing as it relates to one, their Zk-tech, but two, this whole like idea of aggregation and the ability to kind of build apps that, if the key thing in that post I linked is like, it feels like a monolithic blockchain. It feels like you're interacting with one chain. You don't have to get ETH on multiple L2s in order to clear a transaction. You don't have to worry about where the other person's wallet is. And if they can deliver on that, I'd be a happy guy.
I love that. Rob, you've absolutely been on fire today. We are getting a little tight for time. One last question, and then we will wrap up. Give me some 2024 trends. Doesn't have to be good, can be bad, but give me some 2024 crypto trends that are tickling your fancy at the moment. Things that you think will really help us out towards the end of the year.
I think it's got to be UX and more mainstream things. There's been a lot of attention on wallets, a lot of VCs funding wallet companies, a lot of people doing interesting things with account abstraction, even incumbents with passkeys. Like there seems to be some broader adoption of authentication technology. And so if we can get to a point where the wallet experience gets really good, gets really seamless. You can use wallets across applications. You don't have to have these clunky secondary wallets, and breaks down when you try to go from one app to bounce to the wallet and then back. If we can make that experience better, make it simpler and more safe for people, I think we can really start to get to mainstream apps that your mom would be happy to use. And you already see that a little bit. Blackbird, the guys from Resi, launched one recently, and other than like having the $sign before fly, that's like, $fly is what you earn in there. If it weren't for the $sign, you might not even realize it's a crypto app. You don't really see the wallet or anything. I think they're using Privy behind the scenes. But that is the thing that I think in 24, I thought we weren't going to have another bull market until I was surprised at how quickly we kind of bounced back. But I thought that was going to be the thing that's going to unlock the bull market. I still think it's needed as the next thing.
I love that. Rob, what an episode. Really appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you and DIMO online and on socials? Yeah, I'm Rob M. Solomon everywhere. So ROBM SOLOMON on Twitter, on Discord. Yeah, it's DIMO.xyz is the website. You can find links to our Discord and everything there. It's at DIMO_network on Twitter.
It's probably the best place to kind of just subscribe to updates. And yeah, come find us in the metaverse. Drive DIMO.com to buy a device and connect your car. DIMO Mobile in the App Store on iOS and Android. You can get connected pretty quickly. I definitely recommend. It's a great one to try out. It's a great one to show to people who are less familiar with crypto and want to have a good experience trying something new.
And last question here, I totally forgot to ask. You guys are currently all sold out of the devices. When are those bad boys back in stock?
Very soon. We should have more of the smaller device back in stock next week, and the bigger one I expect we'll be fulfilling orders again within 2 to 3 months.
Amazing. Rob, what an episode. Really appreciate you coming on. And at the current rate that you guys are building and shipping, we will definitely have to do round 2 within the next couple of months. And truly a treat. Appreciate your time and can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Folks, what an episode with Rob Solomon, co-founder of DIMO. Absolute treat of an episode. Everything DePIN, DAOs, building the future of mobility, and of course, everything DIMO related. Rob brought the heat. Knowledge bombs left, right, and center. Really appreciate that. We love to see it. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Eustace, you're the man. Appreciate you. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.